Alright, so let's be honest, going from a flare to Airflare really clean isn't all that simple. And that's what this video is all about, coming right up. It's time to wake up because we're gonna work on those flare to Airflares today. This is your man Coach Sambo, your online b-boy coach, giving you that freshest, most prestigious, high value b-boy knowledge and throwing it straight in your face. So if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely subscribe so you can stay up to date every time I upload a new fresh, high quality video. So of course, when going from a flare to an Airflare, you really need a good flare and you need a decent Airflare, like at least one. Of course, the better you master these basics, the easier you will be able to combine them, of course. So that's already covering half of the problems with your flare to Airflare. Make sure you have good basics. Of course, I have a flare and an Airflare tutorial. I have a new Airflare tutorial that's gonna come out pretty soon.
It's gonna be so freaking fresh.
So if you have a good flare and a decent one Airflare, but you're still having problems scraping with those feet over the floor, then I'm about to drop these tips and these tricks to help you out reach your goals.
Coach Sambo exclusive.
To help out with flare to Airflare, you wanna make sure your flare is explosive. So a really good exercise to work on explosive flares is just doing one flare, which should be kind of easy, right? But it's gonna be so easy that you actually allow yourself to just give your all and really perform a crispy, explosive flare and trying to get as high as you can in the back of that flare and then just putting your feet on the floor. Just a really good exercise to get in that vibe and in that zone. And then moving on to another exercise that you wanna do often is perform a flare and then head on over to a frog stand and then push yourself all the way up into a handstand. Now this one isn't the technique for flare Airflare, but it is working on the muscles you need
to perform your flare to Airflare.
Moving on to the next exercise, which is kind of a little shortcut that you will only find with your man Coach Sambo. And that's performing one flare, trying not to scrape the floor, and then combining it to like an elbow 90 or maybe even an elbow Airflare. This will help you unlock the motion of your legs and hips and then help you continue the move as the elbow Airflare or elbow 90 is one floor lower than, of course, the Airflare, giving you an easier time to adapt to this combo. Okay, so once we tried all of these out with a little crash here and there,
which is all good by the way,
now we're gonna look at a little more detail and technique when it comes to performing flare to Airflare. Now the first detail I wanna share with you guys is the fact that when you're performing your flare to Airflare, that your hips and legs start to rise halfway through that flare and not in the back of that flare. A lot of people execute a flare and then wait until their legs and hips end up in the back, and that's the moment they start pushing up. But that's too late, and that's one of the most common reasons why a lot of people scrape the floor when performing flare to Airflare. Now the second thing I want to add right here is when you're performing your flare to Airflare, you want to try and bring those hips in towards you and then pump the hips out as you would do with an applejack to then help you bounce your way up and get those hips higher so you have an easier time connecting to that Airflare. And now we're talking precision technique right here. If you really got a good flare and you're able to implement this technique, you're going to feel so much lighter when trying this out. And that brings me to this next step. But if you'd like all the previous exercises, bro, you got to join my Zoom live classes because I'm giving techniques like this and showing it to you with high-tech technology, and then of course giving you feedback and helping you out with these moves. It's just like me teaching you right there in that living room. So I definitely hope to see you guys there. The info is of course in the description down below. So if you manage all these last tips and exercises right there, how will we effectively perform that flare to Airflare? So here's the trick. You want to do a really explosive flare, using your hips to rise halfway through the flare, getting those hips as high as possible, and then performing a low Airflare, and of course not scraping throughout the process. And that's why this low Airflare is a really good shortcut for you to learn the real flare to Airflare. And it's okay for you to crash, just as long as you're not sliding over the floor with your legs and secretly pushing off, which is basically cheating, guys. So when you're at ease with doing a flare to a low Airflare and then kind of crashing, you just want to repeat this again and again and again. And I promise you it will take you like 4 or 5 practice sessions for you to connect it to a windmill after that, or your second Airflare or whatever. Also, something you might want to know is doing a flare to a low Airflare without scraping is a really good exercise to lower your Airflare if you're someone that learned it in the high angle. Just a little something I want to include right here for you guys, because that's what Coach Sambo does.
He takes you to that next level.
Yo, if you learned some valuable stuff right here, definitely show respect by smashing that like button and smashing a random comment, because these things help me boost this channel all the way up to #1. Good luck with those flare to Airflares. I know it's a struggle, guys, but we've all went through this. So just as long as you don't give up, the day will come where you reach your goals.
Give me 5 motherfucking push-ups.